Hey guys, this is Suzie Eller, and I am with an amazing new friend. I feel like I've found a kindred spirit in Jennifer Dukesley, and she wrote a book that the title alone makes me stop and want to pick it up because it's called The Happiness Dare. And she lives in Iowa, and I don't know, she doesn't even know this, but we have something in common. I actually married a farmer. I was a city girl who married a farmer and ended up going into a whole different lifestyle for me. So she's an Iowa farm girl with two beautiful children, and she's wrote a couple of amazing books, Love Idol and The Happiness Dare. So welcome.
It's so good to be here. You're right. I didn't know that about you. I love it. The farmer connection.
Like milk cows and ride a tractor, and now we're city again. And we've done this complete revolution where he married a city girl and brought me to the farm, and eventually, like 25 years later, I brought him back to the city. Who knows where we're going to end up? I have no idea. But Jennifer, we've been on my blog all this month talking about rest, and we've hit a nerve. I mean, a real nerve. And one of the aspects of rest is kind of linked to our happiness. Now, you describe some styles of happiness in your book. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, when I was writing The Happiness Dare, I did a lot of research on happiness, scripturally, of course, and looking at scripture through that filter of happiness. And God opened a lot of really cool things in scripture. But what I also found by studying research and science over the last 20 years is that there were these main determinants of happiness, different ways that people derived happiness. And out of those main determinants of happiness, with the help of some psychologists and counselors and ministry leaders, I created a happiness style quiz. And basically in 5 minutes or less, people can take that quiz online at thehappinessdare.com, and they can figure out what their happiness style is, what truly makes them happy. And there are 5 main styles, again, derived from the main ways that people have happiness. And there are doers, the people who find supreme happiness in the work that they do in the world, knowing that they're hand in hand with God, doing what they were called to do. There are the givers, those who know that shared happiness is a double happiness, that when we give to others, we are not cutting our happiness in half, but we're doubling it within ourselves and then within others as well. There are the experiencers, and these are the fun people in your life, the ones who are just whimsical and spontaneous and planning the fun trips, or just the people that you'll see out on their back deck at night. They're great at resting, generally, experiencers are. They're the ones who are going to watch the sunset and soak it all in, just engaging in moments and experiences right where they are. There are the thinkers, and the thinkers are people who love to ponder and daydream. You might find their nose in a book quite often, and they're just plenty happy on a Saturday night at home with a bowl of popcorn in front of the fire, watching a documentary, while all of the relators, which is the 5th happiness style, while all of the relators are gathered like at some block party on a Saturday night. So those relators really love to engage in conversation. They're inviting people to the table. And so the cool thing about all of those styles is that they are all proof that we are made in the image of God. Because if you look at scripture, we know that God is the ultimate giver, relator, doer, experiencer, and thinker, for sure. So no matter what style you are a part of how God made you. You are part of the way that God is himself in the image of God. So it's been really exciting. Of course, there are all kinds of downfalls, which we can talk about later, to some of those happiness styles, but they are certainly all a place when we know where our style is, that we can really nurture and cultivate more happiness in our own lives.
Well, I know that as I'm listening to that, I'm kind of placing myself in actually a couple of those. But where do you fall? Where do you land?
I am like off the charts doer. And anybody who knows me really well knows that this is true. I wouldn't even have to take the test. They would just know, oh, Jennifer's a doer. I'm the kind of a person who is as happy on Monday morning at 8 a.m. that some people are on Friday at 5. I love my lists. I love crossing things off of them. I love knowing that when I am in the flow, some research calls it the flow, or you might call it the zone, like doing what I was created on this earth to do, whether that's in mothering or whether that's in local ministry, whether that's in my online ministry or books or whatever, like knowing I am in the zone makes me so happy. And as a doer, it doesn't mean I'm always happy when I'm in it, like actually doing the task. So for instance, let's say I'm working on a chapter for a book and it seems overwhelming and I want to pull my hair out and I have all these squirrel moments that are happening all around me. But when I get the chapter done at the end of the day and I put that little X in that box, whoop, whoop, celebrate, right? And so it makes me super happy. So that's me. I'm a doer.
I love that. So I know that there are highs to that and positives, but there's got to be a basement to the doer.
Yeah.
What's the basement of that?
The basement is, and if you're a doer, anybody that's watching with us and joining us today, man, you know what it is already. One is overdoing your doing. Because doing makes you happy, you are prone to workaholism. Your work day, you've set it out that you will end at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But because you've got your phone with you all the time, work is always with you and you can hardly resist. And so you end up overdoing and overworking, and it takes away from other things that God has actually called you to do, like rest. Like this lack of rest is just this huge thief of happiness. And as doers, we have to be aware of that, because we're not made to be just doers. Because we are made in the image of God, we are also created for experiences and for thinking and space to daydream and to take walks and just to spend time with the Lord and spend time relating as relators with other people. So I think for any of the styles, there are these huge red flags that can rob us of rest and really rob us of happiness. But I think of all 5 styles, the one that is at the biggest risk of losing rest and thus losing happiness in that way are the doers, for sure, because we can hardly pause. We just want to keep on going, keep on crossing something else off, having the sense of accomplishment. And then this is the thing, rarely taking the time, that moment of celebration we were talking about just a few minutes ago, we rarely sit and linger in that and allow the fullness of happiness to come over us in that moment, which really takes a moment of just sitting back and resting and dwelling in the good that you've been co-creating with God and that you have been doing with God. Because we don't do it, we're looking at the list and saying, yeah, but there's 10 more things that got to get done, and I kind of want to do those. But we need moments of celebration and rest built in as doing kind of people, so that we can truly cultivate happiness the way that God intended.
Well, I shared the other day on my blog that I'm a strong doer. There's another one in there that's kind of in there as well. But one thing that I had to do to be healthy, spiritually, emotionally, physically, was to every 6 months stop, put it all on the table, and say, Lord, is there anything on here that I, as a doer, put on here that's not supposed to be on here?
Yes.
Is there anything on here that's supposed to be on here, but it's negotiable? There's aspects of it that's negotiable. Is there anything on here that it was a season and a good season, but it's time, to let it go? And I do that every 6 months. And I do that because if I don't, I become spiritually, physically, emotionally out of balance. And when you talk about the thief of happiness, I remember at She Speaks one year, because I'm with Proverbs 31 Ministries, and it was an intense time. And it's always an intense time. That's the thing. It's always intense.
Yes.
But I was laying in my bed almost in a fetal position. And I had allowed myself to come to that place. And I cried out to God and was just like, Lord, what is wrong? And I realized the Lord spoke to me, you're made for rest. You're made for laughter. You're made for joy. You're made for these things too, Suzie. You're not just this train that puts her head down and keeps on going.
Yes.
So, yeah. So since that time, that has been a help for me. So if somebody's watching this today and she just says, I'm completely out of sync. I am not rest. I am not happy because of it. What would you say to her?
Well, the first thing I would do, and this sounds so silly, but this is an easy thing that you can do to start right now, is if you love your list and you that list sometimes controls you, put things in it like mandatory fun. I actually participate in what I call mandatory fun. You will sit on this park bench, you will order an ice cream cone, and you will enjoy it for 15 minutes in the sun. Then I get to cross it off my list when it's accomplished. I mean, there's little tricks you can do like that. And I actually do that. But seriously, the bigger work has to be done too. The kind of work that you're talking about, that you do every 6 months. Back in October, I had been living in a state of denial about the decorating in my home. It's so out of style. And I just purposely avoid home decor blogs and all that kind of thing because I don't even want to know. I just want to be in home decor denial. But anyway, I took a course because I knew I was in a state of having to like make a few changes. And so one of the first tasks that we were asked to do was quiet the room, which is essentially meant that we had to take everything out of the room and put it somewhere else and just look at the room in a fresh new way. And then we had to have some different piles. And basically, what were we going to keep? What did we love? What brought pure happiness and joy? What did we feel like we needed? What had to be there? Like, we still need like a chair or a coffee table or what's needed. And then what can be dismissed or given away or donated or sold or whatever. And so when I stood in front of that empty room, when I first took part of that, I started to cry, which sounds so weird. It wasn't over the bad paint color, but I realized my life is this room. I have spent 14 years just, buying new things essentially, or saying yes to more things and just stuffing myself full of all of these things. And I realized my heart is a room and I need to quiet that room. And so I think taking everything out and saying to God, look, I'm going to lay this all on the table, and having him help me, Jennifer, what do you love? What really brings you joy? And putting those back in. And then knowing that there's some things that are just that I'm called to do just because I'm a human. And there's times where, I've got a sick kid and but my parents are aging and I feel caught in between those two things. And where should I be? Like, you don't just get to push hard things out of the room. Some hard things have to stay in the room, but you got to create margin so those hard things can be tended to. So I would say quiet the room, lay everything on the table and see what can come back and what you can just dismiss or gladly give away to somebody else who maybe would really love it. Or, maybe some things just aren't healthy for you and just need to be thrown away.
That's awesome. Well, this is life-changing, and I know it's short, but some of you just need to go rest right now.
Yeah.
How can those who are watching right now find out more about you and more about the happiness there?
You can find out more about me on social media, Jennifer Dukesley on Facebook. I'm Dukesley on Twitter and Instagram. Jennifer Dukesley is my blog. And then for the book itself, you can find it at online retailers. And you can find out about that quiz again at thehappinessdare.com.
Right. Well, this has been enlightening, and I really believe that the Lord can use this, Jennifer, to give some of his girls just a little more balance and a little more happiness. And so I am so grateful that you have joined me.